to Monrovia, and I thought those days they were not really good at saving. And my father used to work in a port, so when ship comes, my father is, as we can say, like my father be holding, and when ship goes, my father is broke. So we are able to see both sides of the equation. So when ship comes, we'll be eating. If the ship brought conflict, we eat conflicts. When there is no ship, we go back to our dry rice and red oil. So we were in such an income bracket for youthful days. And I will also mention that possibly because of that, we lived many places. We lived Jamaica Road, 12 Farm, Logan Town, Chocolate City, New Town. So we are able to live in multiple different areas as per what the income could support within that moment.
Okay. When we say during the 90s, learning in Labrador was very challenging because there are people during those days believed that the education sector of our country was very poor. And you were one of those Labradorians that challenged your your African counterpart, even when at the higher peak. How did you feel? What was your motivation?
So interestingly, there was something that happened during that time that we have not really been able to replicate, and that is for a lot of persons who were of high academic ability, quote unquote smart people, the only opportunities for advancement they had in the 90s to the early 20, sometimes call it the OTs, that is 2000, 2000 or 2009, was teaching.
Okay.
So we actually had good teachers in those days, as compared to later on when banks came, many people could work in the banks, people could work with say Tutor or other places. So we were privileged to have, I would think, some of the best instructors. Additionally, in my particular case, I was blessed to have gotten to know how to read at an early age. So I was already reading world geography when I was in 3rd grade. When I was in 5th grade, I started reading modern biology, modern physics, and things of that nature. So it meant that I was prepared for most of these academic issues substantially ahead of time. So that placed me on a unique pedestal when it came to carrying out international quizzing competitions. So the first thing that made me to begin to think of international quizzing competition during the period 2003 to 2005, the US Embassy instituted in Liberia Black History Month quiz competition. At that time, I was 2 years out of high school. We got in touch with a young guy called Moasizi, but we now based in Switzerland, to organize those first 2 editions. But when he was quizzing, he was good at math and not history. But he had this contact and I was good at history. So he got me, he and I worked together for the first 2 editions. The third one, 2005, I handled it alone. Then I began to realize that if the US Embassy is organizing quizzing here, it means that quizzing is practiced in places other than Liberia. So we identified a short list of institutions to work with. We found out that there was a group in the USA called NAQT, National Association of Quiz Tournaments, and we found out that there was a grouping in London, UK called the International Quizzing Association. So we got in touch with the IQA, and Liberia got admitted to the IQA International Quizzing Association in 2006. So since then, there have been about 13 editions of the World Quizzing Championship in which Africans have been ranked. And I did a recent search and I found out of those 13 years, I happened to come first in 8 of them. So I am on that basis the only African that is profiled on the website of the International Quizzing Association. And I stand as, I would say, an icon of African quizzing. Recently there was a quizzing competition created by the IQA called Quizzing 101. And they asked me not to partake but to rather draw questions that would be contested by persons involved in quizzing all around the world. So at some level, international community in fact a question sector for international quizzing events. So it's a passion of mine, but we still give attention to eating like this year, like last year and year before last, and several other years before. We are conducting quizzing competitions for over 80 to 100 schools in our country, and I'm pleased to say that 2 of the award winners of our quizzing competition last year were among the 7 high school graduates that were given scholarships by President Weah to attend further education abroad during the last year Flag Day program. So we have the sort of motivation we are giving young people to study their lessons is in fact placing them on a pedestal to their own personal advancement. So it gives us a lot of pleasure in our own way.
Okay. Yes, you spoke a lot about your own educational background. But before going to your professional life, I'd love to ask a question. There are some older folks in Liberia who believe that Liberian students cannot compete with their West African counterpart. That statement was backed by our former president's statement, which said back in 2013 that the Liberian education sector was a mess. So how do you think? Do you think that Liberian young generation cannot compete with their West African counterpart, or what do you think is lacking?
So what I have found out in my time is there has been some reduction in the quality of the average performance, but the outstanding Liberian student I have found out over time is outstanding anywhere. So there are Liberian students who are doing well, tapping universities in different parts of the world, and they were outstanding here. Our own challenge has been that many times as parents and other family members, we are willing to accept a bare minimum. We are willing to accept a bare 70. You know, I have a friend and he told me whenever he made a grade above 90, his father would beat him and then give him the same test to see what he would make. And were he to make similar grade, then the beating ends. Were he to make a lesser grade, he is beaten again. So from that father perspective, he was interested in ensuring that the students are sincere to themselves and to those who come after them, those who they will put together as their parents, their teachers, and so on. In our case, many times we accept for the grades on our children report card or grade sheet to be better than what they can produce. For me, I would like to have a person who is going to perform at the level of an A student, who may have a C on their card, but they can perform at the level of an A student in any place. As of now, I think President Study served as president of Liberia for 12 years. If she made a system a mess and she kept it a mess, then she's a messy lady. Because she was in the country, she had to deliver us from this messy education system. When she was elected in, or when she came to power, because I still believe I'm one of those who still have my own uncertainties as to whether she was actually elected in 2005 and 2011. But when she came to power at those times, it was on the basis of her having an understanding appreciation of education. And I think if you have an understanding appreciation of something, you'll be able to replicate it in others. We did not see that. Unfortunately, what we saw was a splintering of our generational landscape between people who went to school in Liberia and individuals who were so well connected they could get scholarships to go to school abroad. And one group of people found themselves giving a higher pedestal, and the others were considered lesser individuals. So, in my view, some of those funds that were spent by NOCA and others on those multiple foreign scholarships who have been spent to equip the lab of the University of Liberia, who have been spent to bring instructors here. And let us not forget, that was a government that has $16 billion worth of foreign investment, $16 billion worth of aid. That's $32 billion in total during 12 years. So there was so much opportunity to give us a sparkling education system if they wanted to. So I'm sad that we are left with an education system that's a mess, but we are going to clean up that mess. And that's why Honorable Akara Moses Grace says, he says he will clean up the mess. And the friend who I told you who father used to beat him when he comes in with a grade until he proves it again, is Jefferson Koji. So all of these things, we must have in us our personal convictions that tell us what is right and how we can make right things to happen in the life of others.
Okay. Yeah. Let me get back to your professional life. I know we touched on it. Young men coming out in the late 90s. Can you vividly say to the public, there are people who are watching you now, they may announce that through the internet. And there are people, young people, to get a job, even parents, very hard to sustain their family during the late 90s and even the early 90s. So how did you manage?
So one of the things that I learned to do was to do things for free. So in 1995, I was a child broadcaster. We were all, it was a voluntary arrangement.
Okay.
1997, as a child broadcaster, was again voluntary. 2099, at the Crowd newspapers of Corp reporter, I remember after serving for 1 month, I was called in the office and I received, I was saying, a huge amount for a young person of my age of 500 Liberian dollars. When we moved to organizations like Voice of the Future, we maintain a commitment and a conviction to getting things done, ensuring that individuals that we are reaching out to remember us for our impact. So during that time of Voice of the Future, our institution represented Liberians at the Millennial Young People Congress, which was held in Honolulu, Hawaii. And we also conducted an advocacy tour of the United States in 2001, which was a precursor to our own participation at the UN, Liberia's participation at the UN General Assembly Special Session on Children. So in that time, we got 2 mandates. One was to set up a children's program for our country. Another, through our head, Mr. Richard Addison, was to organize the West African Youth Network. So we formed the West African Youth Network in 2002. I was in 2017 and I became the first head of the Liberia's chapter of the West African Youth Network. That was on page. Then we moved on to the Ministry of Youth and Schools as a personal attaché to the minister. During that time frame, I was able to work along with the Minister of Youth and Schools to form or helped form the Liberian Children's Parliament in 2002. That was again unpaid. Later on, the West African Youth Network formed the Rwanda Union Youth Parliament, which, as you all are aware, is now one of the 3 cardinal youth institutions in our country, alongside FLA in Linsu, and it's even mentioned in national budget. I was not one of those who got any part of the factors in national budget, but those are things that we started. We were also involved in starting the civil society movement of Liberia. That was in 2001, along with the likes of Sir Philip Joe, former Senator Justin Freeman Sumo, former interior representative John J. Bakwe, the likes of the late great Moses Satana Podi, Roland Marcus Jones, Councilor at Law, or at least at that time. So there were a lot of persons I would work along with. So being willing to do things for free catapulted me into a situation wherein I was able to learn some of the evils facing Liberia and come up with a viewpoint that young people should speak without being teleguided, but on the basis of their generational consciousness. In 2003, I was involved in the discussions as to how young people were represented in the NTGL. So I partook in those discussions. I did not serve in NTGL, but I contributed my own thoughts to that. So I entered politics in 2005, contested the convention of the CDC in that year for Youth League Chairman, National Convention, and I lost. And I normally say I didn't just lose, I lost miserably, obtaining 1 vote out of 29 votes cast, my own vote. But I was one person who did not use that as a means of feeling disenchanted, disoriented, or as something to attack the movement for that, to say I wasn't appreciated. No, I worked harder. I found a lady, a widow with 8 children, brought her to the movement. She got selected as East Kennedy in District, I was in District 13. You have Cardwell, Brewerville, Dixville, Louisiana, Attington, those quote unquote Congo settlements. And she won that district. The Kennedy from what was called the Native War Party in a Congo settlement, even though President Sirleaf won the presidential vote in that place. So she was a widow of 8 children. Everybody went away from that campaign because it was broke. But I got appointed by her to serve as a special assistant. I served that role for 6 years. So it's possible that if I had been used to asking for money before carrying on tax, I might have opted for one of those more lucrative campaigns. Maybe could have lost, or maybe I could have won, but not been retained for 6 years. So during that time before, we were able to separate my professional duties as a special assistant from my personal life. So while before I completed AMEU, I got involved in NASICO, the National Student Electoral Council of Liberia, served as its president. And that was the time during which we acted on the case of the late injured Tuba, the case of the late Arvin Davis. We had matches in Monrovia. We were able to create a consciousness of the issues of young people. During that time, I served as vice president of the Federation of Liberian Youth from 2007 to 2010. I also ended my tenure as chair of the Council of Foreigners for the Liberian Children's Parliament. in 2008 while before. I did numerous consultancies while before for Usiwa. So the early childhood development policy of Liberia, I'm one of the crafters. You check on page 12 of that policy, my name is written there with some gratitude acknowledgements. And next week I will be speaking at the induction ceremony for the Early Child Professionals Association of Liberia. So a key point I'm trying to drive out is, in order to advance professionally as a young person, maybe it's not best to look at what is your immediate gain, but your long-term direction. So having served at the Cabinet building for some years, I realized that I was into the area of public policy. I'll be advising my boss. Most other persons, I wanted my lawmaker to be re-elected. So I opted to go to the law school to ensure that at least by our next standing office you have one lawyer. So I went to the law school, completed it. Unfortunately for me, she did not get re-elected. So I was pushed into the labor market. I had to be innovative. So my first task after leaving Capital Building was to serve as consultant. So I was in the Bureau of National Fisheries at the Ministry of Agriculture. And work on the Artisanal Fisheries Management Plan of Liberia. I'm told that that plan is still being used today. After that, we did some consultancies with Action Aid, OCWA, a number of agencies of different kinds. In 2013, I served with the National East Commission in 3 different capacities for a very short period. I served first as, I think it was 2012 to 2013, a consultant. So that was 2013. So I was consulting at there on a midterm evaluation of Liberia's Global Fund program or its response. I then became the data manager, later the first legal counsel. I work with the UC Go project, Girls Opportunity to Access Learning, as communication specialist, encouraging over 20,000 parents to send their children to school in 5 counties in Liberia, as well as Monserrado, which was the capital. Or documentary that we did for that purpose still remains on the internet. I joined UNICEF also in 2013, first as communications writer. So that was part-time. UNICEF wanted us to really call me. I put my writing skills to work, gave them something. Later on, I was invited as communications officer for child protection to work on the anti-rape program, and I was serving in that role until the Ebola crisis. Interestingly, during my time in the anti-rape program, we did an anti-rape video for Liberia, starring Takunji, in which was cited at the Modemi Academy. And some of the issues I hear about that Modemi were actually after we filmed in that building that people began to be aware. Our video was the most viewed video for any violence against children produced by any country office as of the time I left UNICEF in 2016. So that year in 2016, I left UNICEF, like most other persons. I had to hustle to get something to do. It didn't always happen fast, but by early 2017, I got a call from the Ministry of Health and the National Public Health Institute of Liberia to serve as legal consultant. So if you are passing the Congotown Back Road now, where it joins with Dublin Boulevard, you see a new structure going up. There were many individuals who bought plots in the general vicinity of TB Annex that actually belonged to the government of Liberia. So the government had a history previously where, in order to get Redemption Hospital back, she spent millions of dollars to land for a new redemption. So the idea was get a lawyer who will negotiate with the people to get these plots back. So we did it successfully, and Liberia is going to have one of the best microbial labs or public health laboratories in West Africa on that spot where it's now being built by the US Department of Defense. So that's one of my accomplishment at Enfield. Interestingly, I was also one of those who were key crafters of the Act for the National Public Health Institute of Liberia. So it was there that I was when I was given a call one evening to resume my role on the political front lines, serving as acting National Vice Chief of Legal and Governmental Affairs for the Congress of Democratic Change. Later serving as chair for the Human Development Committee of the transitional team between the outgoing Unity Party-led government and the incoming CDC-led government, and then asked to become Deputy Minister of Labor. I should point out that since I became Deputy Minister of Labor, I've also been given additional time by President Weah, which is to serve as a member of the Monrovia City Council. So I consider myself blessed and privileged that I've had a chance to serve my country at different levels, volunteer, paid employee, in all of these ways on the basis of willingness to sacrifice. So I always used to do three things at a time. One of them will be paying me, one of them will be equilibrium, neither paying me nor liability, and one of them will be voluntary, more or less a liability.
Okay, so let's look at before we get to other things, sir. There is this huge perception that a lot of people that the younger generation of Liberia is not prepared now to take over leadership. That was overwhelmingly defeated in the just ended election back in 2017. And they are the older generation, one would say, quote unquote, who believe that the younger generation cannot take over the country, and they are using other, when we say, they hate in other languages that are currently against this government because they still hold to the perception of the young girl. How do you see this government? We are barely a little over 1 year now since the real government took. What do you think is lacking in this government? What do you think needs to be done more to improve the level of Liberians?
Okay, thank you very much. When President Weah took over, he had to make a number of decisions. And one of them, I'd like to give an illustration of justice as a car. So in a car, you would decide to drive by looking through your windshield or looking through your rear view mirror. If you decide to look through your rear view mirror, you see only the things that are behind you, what happened in the past. If you decide to look through your windshield, you are going to see the things that are ahead of you, which you are doing now. So when it comes to a number of issues, President Weah has been interested in ensuring, for example, even if there were people in the past that were corrupt, at the moment a person is appointed in his government, they have an obligation towards honesty. So much of the investigations and issues that we have been giving attention to are the issues of now. What have we done with what we have? So you see, it appears like there's a push by others to ask us to focus on what happened during the tenure of other officials. You saw it during the Bring Back Your Money protest. We investigation of some of the international community and ourselves. And the only groupings that could be found live were people who served in the previous government. There is an ongoing $25 billion investigation. Who knows who will be found liable? It could also be individuals who are technicians that were employed during the period of the previous government. So one of our issues has always been, what can we accomplish that is new? So you see, President, we have made an interesting decision to reduce the salary of all his appointees and himself. Today, we're not going to debate as to whether this government has more investment in the previous government or not, or more aid or not, or economy is better or not. But Liberians are seeing roads being connected in their cities. So if it is true that nothing is happening in Liberia, the economy is so bad, and we are connecting the roads within the city of Monrovia, think how much more should have been done by those who have all the economy going on well, all the investment coming, all the aid coming, and the only roads that will be built in our country are roads that donors were sponsoring. So technically, with this sort of issue on our focus on our own productivity, you are seeing a lot more being done with the money that the taxpayers pay. You can leave from you go to Painesville now. There are so many different ways of bypassing, even from Congo Town to Painesville. I don't necessarily need to pass on Todmont Boulevard. The process has begun for connecting roads in many other communities. When I left from Logantown Broad Street, the course I was on right, or I live in right on the road there, this will be filled with dust every day. It was a dusty road. I used to have to get a motorbike to go on to the junction, not because I couldn't walk, I had the ability to walk in Egypt. But any attempt to walk during rainy season, my shoes will be able to tell me that I'm being an error. Today that road is paved. Total Community Road is paved. We have tried our best to make sure that the ordinary Liberian can have a way of enjoying his own country. And if we have $2 as a government, we try to make sure it reaches to plenty people. If we have 500 or 800 million, so much the better. We try to ensure it reaches to even more people. So that is the sort of commitment President Villa have asked us. He says a pro government. So the salaries that are required from us deals with those rules. It pays the fees of students for WIAC. It pays the tuition of university students, and helps everybody to benefit from the country. So instead of few individuals in government, say 400 to 500 presidential appointee, enjoying over 60% of the national salary, which is actually what has been happening in the country, and may still be, you have the vast majority, over 30,000 students in higher education benefiting from that. That funding also supported the senatorial by-elections in Monsuado County, in one county, provided some support to the by-elections in District 13 Monsuado and Little Onsando. So you can tell that by reallocating resources from those who have much to those who have little, we are reaching out there. Are we perfect yet? No, we are not perfect. We are not perfect because there are too many different priorities to attack at once. For example, in the health sector, you have issues of staff that are not fully trained. You have issues of insufficient health facilities, in some cases insufficient logistics or drugs. So what we have started to do is to encourage the development of Liberian human resource. So presently we have sent over 18 Liberians for scholarship to specialize in the medical discipline. I had a friend who had to go to send her husband to Ghana to take bone from in his throat. It's not going to be happening now. You have bone stuck in your throat, you take it already in Liberia. The presidential aide Siku Kalasco Damaro got sick and hospitalized. He didn't get hospitalized in France or England or the USA. He got hospitalized at GFK. That's how improved things are because of the level of attention we are giving to these things. By the next budget year, we will be having up to 4 CT scans functional in our country. When previously there was 0 for the first 9 years of President Salif regime. Later on, during our last year, we got a CT scan in our nation. So within this time that we have had, I'm not one of those who will say that we score 100%, but I think I would say we are operating on A in certain areas and B in others. Another area we have thrived very well in is redistribution of the nation's wealth. So let's look at the young persons who have been elevated. The likes of Arvin Wiese, Mercy Kaba from two community. There are so many other young persons I could think about. Memina Khan from right there in Capital Bypass. People from down the whole Oro, Emmanuel Titi Swain, Eddie Tawale, Emmanuel Johnson from Clarendon. These are all a young person like Tanya Briswell. So Princess Stockholm. So these are not the names that others have. And the young people who serve, we serve in our own name. We don't have to show allegiance to any particular godfather every 2 weeks or 3 weeks to be where we are. President Ria knows us. He appointed us because he has confidence in us as individuals. He's concerned about our personal issues that might affect us. That is a way of redistributing national income and wealth. Because many of these young people, including myself, our parents have never been in this place before. Other times who are elevated, people whose parents were there before. Check all your history books. I don't know how many times Dixon was ever appointed. Or Tier. In fact, the only Tapper that have been appointed before is recent Tapper who serves with us today. So there are reasons to believe that Liberia is going to get better. We've got a new generation, and that such improvement is ongoing as we speak.
Okay, sir. Yeah, before we go there, let's look at your contribution to the growth and development of the country. Like you intimated in your previous statement, you spoke about contribution to young people. What gave you so much out to contribute to young people? Like you said, you were serving as a volunteer. What was your motivation?
You know, I believe that good things will happen in Liberia, no matter who leads. So, for example, when I served as captain for first Atty high school quizzing team, 25 scholarships were provided for quizzers. Interestingly, I did not benefit from any of those scholarships. I was already on another scholarship as TUS for the first Atty high school. So though I was the best player responsible for the victories, there were other persons who benefited. Today, even though it came several years afterwards, but that program remained after we left, formerly Assistant Minister for Youth Services Emmanuel Johnson is one of those young persons who benefited from the scholarship for quizzing programs at First AG High School, which started at the time I captained the First AG quizzing team to numerous laurels and applause. A person like Emmanuel Brooklyn, who was appointed by the previous government to serve as one of the diplomatic staff in the Liberian embassy in the United States, came through our tutelage both in the Liberian Children's Parliament and then also the quizzing competition we hosted in 2011, the President's Cup for quizzing. The likes of Jamil Dubai, who is currently a UK school master's degree holder, benefited from those scholarships. The J.J. Roberts scholarship, became a president professional of the previous government. So there are several things that drive me. One of them is we all, or at least for me, I live in Liberia. My wife and 3 children are in Liberia. My father is in Liberia. My mother just recently went to represent Liberia at the CSW. She'll be returning this week. So if we don't motivate young people to be the best that they can be, who's going to treat my mother when she's sick? Who's going to deliver my wife if she gets pregnant? Who's going to face the roads that we ride on? Even if I'm the best or the smartest or everything, I can't do all of these things. There must be others. And on that, I remember the voice of the Japanese intellectual Yoshida Shoin, where he said, if my companions shall carry out my task, then the seed of the future will not die. I'm also moved by 2 African philosophies. One is said in the Kru vernacular, "Condier con law," which means if you have eye, you should have heart. It tells us that when you see things around you, don't just pass. Stop and do something about them. I also believe or share the thoughts of the Pele phrase or idiomatic expression, "Kuku Jumonku." If you're not in there, you don't know. We are all in this country, Liberia. We can all see all of the gaps that are happening in our country. If we sit and we think the only thing that should be done about it is talking, then we are wrong. We cannot only talk. We must inspire, we must instruct, we must serve, we must correct, and most of all, we must consult with each other as to what the common good is. And once that good is established, be amongst the first to stretch forth our hand towards doing something about it.
Okay, finally, to break loose, there are speculations in the corners that there will be the face of actually failed Dixon as it relates to the come by election or the May 10 election.
Okay, those are speculations that are grounded in our level of consultations. I've been in numerous consultations. It's a desire that from these consultations, I believe, should be given life to and acted upon. I'm of the opinion that with the sort of background that we have, having served a legislature for all of these years, 6 years of staff, having been involved in the process of lawmaking, our first draft ad was submitted to the NTLE, it was on act legislation in the Liberian Children's Parliament in 2004. It was in committee room. the Act for the National Police Institute of Liberia was one that I worked on that got passed. So we have, and in 2008 I was an expert that appeared before the legislature to discuss the then proposed children's law. So we have the skill and the know-how to make a better representation of the people of Montserrat County at that level. In addition, I meet the basic requirements in a sense that I have passed 30 years of age. I'm 33. I am a taxpayer. I just paid payroll taxes this month. I've been paying real estate taxes on my properties since around 2011. I've also been paying my professional lessons fees, which are a form of taxes as of my qualification to practice law. So I've met these basic legal requirements. In addition, I think I stand academically grounded with 2 degrees, including one in law. I stand socially and morally grounded, a family man, married, father of 3 daughters, and I believe that I can say I'm a servant of my political institution, the Congress of Democratic Change, and I hope to contest as a candidate of that political institution within its new configuration, the configuration of the Coalition for Democratic Change.
Do you think you have the support of your political leader?
A political leader is somebody who holds me in esteem. He appreciates the commitment we have had towards him. He is someone who is going to give his partisans a chance to prove among themselves who is best suited, and he will support the person that comes out of that discussion. I've treated him with courtesy as required for a role of this nature. So he's aware of the fact that we intend to run, and we are also aware that he is a respecter of the internal process in the party. So we don't expect him to be pulling people from their places and pressuring people to support us, but he is going to help a dialogue, lead to a dialogue that can build a consensus, which is important in an institution of this nature, a governing party. So we had an internal dialogue during our last Senate race in Montserrat County. First Senator Sir Joseph was featured as the face of the party after internal discussion, in which he played a role. I don't think this will be different. We play that role as a leader with multiple followers and cause us to be coherently moving towards these elections where we achieve a victory with the right candidate.
Okay, Mr. Dixon, I would like to know what will be your decision if the party comes up with another candidate?
Again, I'm a servant of the party and not its master. I don't believe the party will come up with another candidate. It's my hope that it doesn't happen. There have been times in the party that I have not felt happy with some things that have happened. But most times you didn't know. I have observed party discipline. You never knew, for example, as to the extent to which I lost the youth league convention until I just told you. So while I hope for favor from the institution, I'm aware that in internal contests, the winner is not always me, and I believe that I will abide by the party decision.
Okay. Is there any final message that you wish to share with the public?
I would like to say that as Liberians, the Liberia that our children inherit is the Liberia we work for I want for us to be future conscious. I want for us to be looking at what we can put in place to benefit them, even if it appears that those who are in there are not those we agree on or with totally. So I'll give an example. Long before I had a child, not too long before actually, about 3 years, I worked on the early child development policy of Liberia. I worked on the children's law of Liberia. It wasn't a party in government at that time. But as a result of that, we had children, children before my party got into power, there were policies in place to protect them. So my urge to all of us, particularly to us who claim to know or prefer that we are so knowledgeable on many things, and let us begin to take concrete steps towards improving a general outlook of our national society apart from that which is political. We can be employers, we can form think tanks. There are so many things that we can do to be instructors at various institutions of higher learning or high school and other forms of things. So let all of us give our best. Some of us will be senators or most of other counties or other counties. So we should serve in our various ways, forms and manner to make our country better.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for a whole lot.